The CW Chronicles. Sinners. Written by Silvano Williams. All content copyright 2013-2023. All rights reserved. Chapter 7. Landing. CW expelled the feelings of melancholy as he plummeted down through the sky. The landscape slowly became visible through the thick clouds around the reversed magnetic pulse bubble. The mainland was directly below him, and he noticed there were smaller settlements scattered across an archipelago of small islands that extended to the east. He couldn't see if there were other landmasses further out in the ocean. Still accelerating in the freefall, he rapidly approached the first RMP bubble below him. Like with the other, pink, purple, and dark blue rays of light originated from it and danced within the sphere. The sadness CW felt about Major Skitties was immediately replaced by the prospect of saving the lives waiting below. He was sure the DP would arrive soon to solve the riddle of the captured Dimension police officer's mind control and save the rest of them. This filled him with a renewed sense of hope. As he dove into the RMP bubble, the gravitational disturbance within it slowed down his fall. CW leaned his head down to speak into his communicator.
"Glad,"
he called out.
"Can you hear me?"
CW heard a lot of static noise, and his own voice echoing back at him. Meanwhile, I was flying around like a lunatic, fighting several Space Armada enemies at once, making sharp turns in all directions to avoid being blown up. A DP vessel blew up near me when I heard his call. I was happy to hear his voice, even if it was amid ear-splitting static.
Yeah, see, man?"
I tried to answer but could not get a coherent thought through my mouth. Okay, so I was a little preoccupied and shouldn't have been talking and flying.
"Dover, get it away from me,"
I cried out, requesting assistance to get a Space Armada ship off my tail.
"Glad.
CW called out once again.
Is everything okay?"
"Yeah, man. I can barely hear you. Damn static. Listen, things up here,"
I started to say but got distracted.
"I said get that shit stain off my ass, Dover."
I screamed at the DP officer helping with my flank.
"CW, things, they aren't too hot up here right now. Crap."
I cursed as I did a perfect canopy roll to avoid another group of Armada idiots that were trying to kill me. Luckily, Sergeant Plix came up from behind me at full throttle and blasted them out of existence.
"Woohoo. That was a close one, Plix. Thank you,"
I celebrated, interrupting my conversation with CW.
"See, talking to you is going to be difficult right now."
And just then Plix blew up.
No. Aw, damn it."
"Glad, what is going on?"
CW asked, sounding concerned. While he knew that we had confronted the Armada, he was unaware that we were actively destroying them.
"Why, yeah,"
I stammered.
"I'm okay, see. Don't worry about us up here. Just some."
I considered telling him the truth.
"Oh boy. Listen, man. The DP has engaged the Space Armada, but we have it under control."
But I lied instead.
"Things are just a little difficult using only the ion cannons. There's too many of them."
"Oh no, Vlad,"
he said, deeply concerned for us.
"Don't worry about that right now,"
I said to him.
"Concentrate on gathering the froggies."
I did a quick survey of the planet, looking for something that would help refocus him.
"There is an island about 2 miles to the east that is large enough to support the rescue, see. We'll start the gathering there, because once that first RMP hits, the mainland will not be safe. Don't worry, see,
One of the Space Armada goons got in a lucky shot that rocked my shuttle hard.
"Vlad. Vlad. What was that?"
"See, I'm fine,"
I started to say. However, the console was short-circuited.
"Glad. Can you hear me?"
He called out to me again. I fanned the smoke away from my face and corrected my course to go after the bastard that hit me. Easily disposed of. These pilots had no talent to evade us. It's as if they weren't even trying, but our skills could only do so much against their numbers. "See," I tried again. A loud feedback crackling noise stopped me from talking anymore. The idiot Space Armada guy had damaged my communications. I could hear CW, but I could not answer back without a loud screeching noise making my ears bleed, so I had to assume he couldn't hear me. Meanwhile, CW felt slightly anxious, but concluded that the reversed magnetic pulse was disrupting his own communicator. He was sure I was okay. Instead of worrying about me, he began to formulate a rescue plan as his descent reached the bottom of the bubble. He exited the bubble feet first, and began to accelerate down toward the ground again with the full force of gravity. He fell as the RMP hovered menacingly above. CW looked around and saw the congregation of small beings gathered below him. They looked up at him with their arms outstretched in the air and didn't seem to want to move out of the way. Because of that, evading the growing gathering of the little froggies was almost impossible. At that speed and with his mass, CW would have easily smashed many of them under his boots. Luckily, his instincts to preserve life made him a quick thinker, and with just a few feet to spare, he let out a mighty breath that pushed them out of the way in time before the force of his weight crushed the ground below with his landing. CW looked at the little amphibians in amazement, bewildered why they didn't bother to move aside in the interest of self-preservation. All around the area, microburst of wind picked up dust and dirt from the ground, damaging much of the vegetation. The thunder rumbled in the distance and announced the brewing storms above. CW reached into one of his DP uniform pants pockets and pulled out a small microphone-looking object. It was a translator. He held it to his mouth.
I have come to help you,
he said, addressing the small beings surrounding him.
Please allow me to take you to safety.
A series of noises came out of the device. The froggies became agitated and stepped closer to CW. He knelt and extended his arms out. Many of them clung to him, chirping and snapping back excitedly in an unexplainable friendly manner. He pulled his arms to his chest to secure them and spoke into the translator again.
I am going to take you to a safer place. Please hold on to me.
Again, the translator chirped in the alien tongue, and then CW took a giant leap toward the island on the east. CW jumped into the stormy sky and glided away from the RMP and the mainland. However, as soon as he was airborne, the creatures became frantic and pushed away to free themselves from his grip. He held them tight but had difficulty keeping them safe in his embrace.
You are in danger. I am taking you to a safer place,
CW said to them in his smooth and comforting voice. Angry, the froggies wriggled to free themselves from CW's iron grip. One of them pushed so hard that it broke its own arm. CW twitched in surprise and unwittingly allowed two of the creatures to escape from his hold.
No, please. No.
CW called out to them. He helplessly watched as they fell into the ocean hundreds of feet below.
Why would you do that?
CW cried out as he approached the first small island.
Why?
He repeated until he landed. His powerful legs absorbed the shock of the impact, softening his landing. Immediately, he glanced back to see the two froggies he dropped swimming away from the island. CW shifted the remaining froggies around to hold them tight. Their slippery bodies made it increasingly difficult to hold onto them. He was afraid that if he left them on the smaller islands, they would all flee into the danger.
Please stop squirming,
he said in the most caring voice, and jumped from island to island until he reached the furthest on the east, which provided the most terrain to contain the froggies in place. When he arrived, he placed the froggies down with the utmost attention. He held on to the injured one, but as soon as the rest of them were loose from his grip, they ran away, screeching in anger.
I know you are afraid, but I am here to help you,
he said into the translator. It squawked out in the alien language again. He then placed it in front of the injured froggy. The froggy croaked at him. The translator yelped right back. CW looked at the translator, shocked.
It broke. Oh no, it's broken.
He put his finger to the ear communicator.
Glad. Can you hear me now?
After a brief pause, he called out again, worried.
Glad. Glad, are you there?
Captain,
the commander answered.
Vlad is fine, but he is unable to answer you. The Space Armada damaged your shuttle's communications.
Oh. What is happening up there?
Do not worry, Captain. We have it under control.
CW didn't have a chance to push the issue, since he had to jump in front of the fleeing froggies to try and herd them back.
Commander, I have a problem with the translator. It isn't working.
The froggies scattered again, and did their best to stay away from CW.
Captain, it may have been damaged in the reverse magnetic pulse. Regardless, you do not have much time.
They won't stay still.
CW said while he ran around after the fleeing froggies. He hunched over with his arms outstretched. He staggered to avoid tripping over them, as he delicately shoved them back to where he had landed. There was a sudden rumble in the ground.
Captain,
the commander called out.
The first reverse magnetic pulse has touched land. You must hurry and get as many of these beings to a safe area as fast as you can.
CW looked around and saw several large pieces of corroded metal buried all around him. He grabbed half of the escaping froggies with one arm and some of the metal with the other hand. With his immense strength, he easily freed the metal from the ground.
Commander, I think I can build a holding pen with these metal sheets.
The commander was surprised.
Metal sheets?
He questioned.
Yes, sir. There are some buried in the ground I can use.
Curious. The beings on this planet have not evolved to learn to use metal yet.
The commander said, but quickly desisted.
Never mind. Do what you can.
CW easily shoved the planks of metal into the ground and built a holding pen. He then placed the froggies he had in hand inside of it. He then jumped over the rest of the froggies that had run toward the shore and swiftly picked them up.
This group is secured.
CW looked up toward the mainland and saw the dark skies above it. He could see where the rain was pouring down at the beach. It was like a waterfall falling from the heavens. The reversed magnetic pulse glowed from within the stormy sky.
Commander,
CW said, concerned. He looked down at the corralled froggies.
It is raining heavily on the mainland. If the oceans flood, it may hurt the group I have here.
They are amphibious, so being in the water is not going to hurt them. Just get as many as you can out of the impact zone. The reverse magnetic pulse is disrupting the planet's core and will affect the magnetic fields any second now. Once that happens, the impact zone will be where the most cataclysmic events will occur.
I understand,
CW said and leapt back toward the mainland.
Yes, Captain,
he heard the commander say.
Hurry, we will be deploying cargo transports to you shortly.
CW smiled, ignoring the large drops of rain that smacked him on the face.